I need the scoop.
A simple act of kindness spirals into a shocking accusation when one office worker's attempt to boost morale is met with unthinkable allegations. This jaw-dropping Reddit confession reveals how hiding playful rubber ducks around the workplace led to accusations of child grooming from a toxic colleague. Prepare for a workplace drama that exposes the devastating impact of false accusations, workplace bullying, and a company's failure to protect its employees.
Last week I had a delivery of 100 little ducks. You know, the kind people leave around their friends' houses when they are on holiday. My work was going through a tumultuous time, and I thought it might boost morale, or at least give a reprieve from the negativity for 5 minutes. So I dotted these ducks around for people to find, and it went down a treat. People were even re-hiding the ducks for other co-workers the next day. Everyone was laughing and talking about it for a couple of days. Even the directors found a couple. They were a bit bemused, but left us to it. One of the directors made a comment that without his glasses, he assumed they were sweets that had been left out. He was glad he took a closer look before trying some. My problem colleague overheard this, and then made the comment that I was grooming both children and men with the ducks. The room fell silent after her comment. She tried to explain that it was like I was luring children with sweets, but with ducks, even though our office is for adults only. I'm not entirely sure how she jumped to that conclusion, but she's always been the problem colleague. She's not happy unless she's insulted someone. Later that afternoon, after I brought it up to my manager, she tried saying it was the kind of joke she would make with her husband on the sofa. I had to tell her that I'm not her husband. I'm not even her friend. I am her work colleague in a professional setting. I reported her to HR, but I think I'm ready to move on to a different company now. I've reported her for other things in the past, for comments like, "You're so fat you should be dead," and similar remarks, so I already have a trail with HR. She usually makes these comments in the middle of other conversations, so I'm often left reeling a bit, and then she gets up and flounces away immediately afterward, 9 times out of 10. The problem is that no one else reports her behavior. She makes nasty comments to everyone, but I think people feel that one comment isn't worth reporting. She's also careful. She has only slipped up and insulted me in front of others a handful of times. Over 2 years, most of her insults have happened when we were alone together. Our reception team even pulled me aside to ask some questions a few weeks ago. I answered them and asked why they didn't ask the problem co-worker, since it was actually her area, not mine. They admitted they felt she would give them grief for not knowing. I told my manager what they had said to me, and she went down to talk to them about it, but they didn't mention the problem co-worker, and instead said they grabbed me because they saw me. It's amazing how one person can create such a fear culture about themselves. Most times she's insulted me. It's because she's insecure about something and takes it out on me. For example, her doctor told her to lose weight. That was the day she told me I was so fat I should be dead. She was told she has high cholesterol, so she took my tea out of my hands and wouldn't allow me to put sugar in because I was killing myself. She was reprimanded at work for wearing flip-flops and vest tops to the office, so she insulted my clothes. The list goes on and on. I had a meeting with my manager this afternoon and will be raising a formal grievance against the problem co-worker. I spoke to the director yesterday, and he was a sweetheart who made me feel a lot better about the whole situation. I think I'm going to continue with the grievance, and at least then in the future, her nastiness will be taken as evidence. He did say that while her comment was vile, he doesn't think it's a sackable offense yet. He also mentioned that at the time of our conversation, he was only aware that she had called me a child groomer, none of the history, so it will still be fully investigated if I raise the grievance. This has brought up conflicting feelings, as I don't want it to escalate or for her to lose her job. I just don't want to be insulted in the workplace. I spoke to one of my colleagues today about the grievance form, which requires listing witnesses. I wanted to make sure they were comfortable with me putting them down, and she was lovely and said she'd support me in any way she could.
The community rallied behind the original poster, with many expressing outrage at such a serious and unfounded accusation being made in a professional environment. Meanwhile, the toxic dynamic continued to deteriorate as the problem co-worker began avoiding the office entirely. 3 weeks after the initial incident, a significant development would change everything about this workplace situation.
So it has been 3 weeks since my co-worker called me a child groomer, and my manager called us into a meeting where I called out her poor behaviour over the past 2 years. Since then, I have not heard or spoken to my co-worker. She ignores any work-related message and is refusing to come into the office. She is working from home, although I can't see that much work is being done. She has recently asked a department that I have been working closely with if she can join them in their office if she has to come into work. HR have asked us if we would both be willing to attend mediation. I said yes. I'm not sure what my co-worker's response was, but since it was due to start this week and has not, I assume she refused to it. I was going to raise a grievance over this, but I was invited to a job interview at a company I had previously applied for and was offered the job. Contract signed and notice handed in. To give some context about what happened, I hid little ducks around the office as a fun activity. She joined in and had a great time. 2 days later, she called me a child groomer. I got upset, as I was actually groomed as a child, which anyone could work out considering how old I was when I had my first child. She has my date of birth on our central system, and our children are the same age. I went to my manager upset. She called us into a meeting together. My co-worker walked in and immediately mocked me for being upset because she was only joking. I got even more upset and called her out on her behaviour. There isn't a week this woman doesn't insult or belittle me in some way. When asked what she thought was similar to child grooming, she said it was like I was luring children with sweets, but with the ducks in an adults-only office. Just to add, while I am the most frequently insulted and belittled by her, she does it to the other staff too. A colleague in another department recently told me she reached out to this problem colleague asking for help with a task and got a very passive-aggressive response back. Her question was answered, but she was made to feel stupid. The problem colleague even read the email responses out loud to her bank of desks, with the head of HR sitting opposite her at the time. There were lots of disapproving sounds, but nothing else was done. She should have been fired on the spot. The fact she wasn't, and multiple people also heard and reported it, and still, she didn't face any repercussions, and is instead breaking our hybrid working agreement. It was time to leave. The new job is a step up with better pay and better hours, so at least I have that going for me. My work does exit interviews, so I'll definitely be bringing up how they mishandled this incident, which inspired me to look for other opportunities.
Readers celebrated the original poster's decision to leave such a toxic environment, with many sharing their own experiences of workplace bullying going unchecked. As the original poster began transitioning to her new role, life would deliver another devastating challenge that would put the workplace drama into painful perspective. 2 months later, we receive a final update on how this difficult chapter concluded.
It's been 3 months since my co-worker accused me of grooming children because I made up an office scavenger hunt. I'm afraid this isn't a very exciting update, and not much has happened between me and problem co-worker. She is in her mid-50s and I am 30. We are both married. Just over a month ago, problem co-worker and I spoke over Teams. I apologized for losing my temper following the child grooming comment, and she apologized for how I took the child grooming comment. Problem co-worker then stated that she will not communicate with me again, as she doesn't know how I will react to her comments. She claims she is now worried for my mental health. She has previously mocked my self-harm scars and called me an attention seeker. We have had no further contact. HR set up a mediation meeting with the union. We had to have individual one-on-one meetings and then an all-day meeting together with the mediator. My individual meeting was uneventful. I outlined everything that had happened and said that I felt mediation was just the company's tick-box exercise to prevent me claiming constructive dismissal and show they had taken a reasonable step to prevent conflict. The mediator said he could not respond. He did pressure me, saying I needed to hear out her side and that she was very apologetic and upset about it all. I then had to explain a situation with a temp hire where problem co-worker shouted and insulted the temp. They had an argument, and problem co-worker cried, saying she didn't want to hurt people. The next time they saw each other, a year later, problem co-worker insulted her weight. I also brought up that the silent treatment now is another form of bullying, as I am being left out of key meetings and decisions, which is affecting my work. We did not attend the mediation full-day meeting. Unfortunately, my dad passed away unexpectedly, the weekend before. I had already arranged a doctor's appointment because I had developed a facial twitch and other unpleasant side effects. The doctor originally signed me off for 2 weeks, but When I mentioned my dad had died that weekend, it was extended to a month, with the proviso that I have an additional meeting before the fit note ended, in case I couldn't face returning to the company. I won't lie, that was the worst month of my life, and coming back to this mess was absolutely awful. I'm so grateful that the doctors took me seriously, as my mom didn't cope well, and my siblings and I alternated staying with her until she was stable, which I wouldn't have been able to do without the month off. My parents live a 10-hour round trip away from me, and even further for my siblings. I originally had 2 weeks left of my notice period when I returned. On my first day back, my manager pulled me into a meeting to say that she and HR were worried about my mental health and wanted me to have a phased return to work, so they asked me to work from home the rest of the week. My final day was also moved up due to outstanding annual leave. I was in the office less than 2 hours on my first day back before the first person approached me for help because they had been trying to work with problem co-worker, but she had been rude and dismissive. Problem co-worker has applied for numerous internal jobs and been rejected for them all, one of which was with the first person to approach me for help. She has continued to refuse all communication with me. I could see that she had a meeting with one of the directors, but aside from that, I'm not sure what else happened following the child groomer comments. I was very spoiled by office friends who made a fuss with a lovely lunch out on my final day and some thoughtful gifts. After lunch, I had my exit interview where I was asked why I left, would I consider coming back, and how I rate the company. It was not a fun meeting, and I was very critical of HR and the company. I did state that had problem co-worker been handled properly from the start, I wouldn't have considered leaving the company. I'm a week free of that company, and my facial twitch has already stopped. There might be further sightings of problem co-worker, as I work part-time for a sister company. They have not managed to find a replacement for me, so I will continue in the role until a replacement is found, but there will not be a need for us to communicate. I had 2 colleagues reach out and also provide a statement to HR following the grooming comments. A lot of incidents I've mentioned happened one-on-one, but the later ones were said and done in front of colleagues. I'm really excited to have this chapter of my life behind me.
Sometimes the most toxic environments reveal themselves through the smallest interactions, forcing us to make difficult choices for our own well-being. Subscribe to stay updated on similar workplace stories that highlight the importance of standing your ground against unfair treatment. Share your thoughts on workplace bullying in the comments below, and check out our recommended video for more stories about finding strength to leave toxic situations behind.